Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, baddies. Happy Wednesday. Today we have a very, very special baddie to introduce to all of you, Miss Jasmine LeFlore. She's rocket scientist, baddie extraordinaire. I can go on and on. She is also the founder of Greater Than Tech. And I'll have her go ahead and explain a little bit more about what she does, but it's nothing short of extraordinary. Welcome, Jasmine, to the pod.
Welcome,
Thank you so much,
Jasmine.
Riley. Thank you, Mackenzie. Happy to be here with my fellow baddies.
Yes.
Appreciate the
Of
love.
course.
Give you a quick rundown of who I am. I'm aerospace engineer working at Raytheon Technologies, Collins Aerospace. But more importantly, I started my passion project, Greater Than Tech, teaching girls and underserved youth STEM and entrepreneurship. And that's important because we want them to not only see themselves as engineers, but also entrepreneurs. If I knew a little bit about business, entrepreneurship, even investing in companies at an earlier age, like what would my life look like? So I want students to know that that's a possibility in tech, and we're going to give them the tools to do that. So happy to be here, happy to be in this space. And yeah, from Flint, Michigan originally, studied engineering. That's probably the longer story we'll talk about later, but it was a rough road to get into STEM, and now I'm in STEM entrepreneurship.
I was so inspired by
Amazing.
your story when we first met. It was at a Village Up, I believe, associated. It was like a happy hour at the brewery
Yes, shout out to
somewhere.
Julius for the happy
Shout,
hour.
shout out to Julius, who's bringing everybody together. But I was just like struck by your story, and you just have like a great, like a infectious personality, and to think that you like the work you're doing with these young girls, or
Mhm.
it's so fun, and I'm
Oh,
I'm
thank
excited to learn more about
you.
it. But anyways, but starting off, we would just like to know a little bit more about you. And so, what is something that you wish others knew about you, but you don't often get to share?
Yes. So, what I wish others knew about me, I feel like a
Anything.
lot of I feel like a lot of
Anything at all.
people think I'm super smart, which I am super smart, but like
Period.
technical, like rigid engineer. I think when people think of an engineer, they think of someone who's very, they have all their like ducks in a row and they're
Mhm.
organized, and it's either black or white and no gray. So I think people probably look at me as somebody who's very structured in that way. But I feel like one of the things I wish people knew about me was that I'm very creative. Like I think of myself as like one of the I call them artsy fartsies. I hope that's not a bad term, but the people
I
who
love
really
that
just
term.
let their ideas flow and like
Mhm.
have a little bit of like fluidity in their life, and like they live very, like unstructured, and they kind of like go where the wind goes. Like I think of myself as that person, specifically because I just love music. Like I really want to be a DJ.
To this
We
day,
love.
like current
To
goal?
this
Question
day,
mark.
yeah, like I feel
Wow.
like I'm really good at picking out samples or like just making playlists. People always talk about my playlist. Like I literally
Oh,
get
heck yeah.
into rabbit holes about music. So I feel like if I was an engineer, I would probably be I made up the term song perfectionist. I would be a
Mm.
song perfectionist where people would come to me after they do their song, and I'd be like, "Oh, just add this ad lib, just add this."
Uh,
Oh, I
uh.
love that for you.
I would put you on blast right now. What would your
Mhm.
DJ name be?
Oh,
What would your
yes.
DJ name
I would be
be?
DJ Jazzy LaFlazzy.
She's thought about this
I thought
before.
about
I
this.
love it.
Oh wait, this was not putting you on the spot at all. You came
No, she's
prepared.
ready. She's ready. She's like, I was prepared for
I was
this.
prepared.
This is my moment. You've been waiting. Well,
Hmm.
please send us a playlist. We want to link it in the description.
Yes,
I
100%.
please.
will.
Yeah. We're huge playlist girlies over here, so 100%.
I
Please do
got
that.
you.
Share with the baddies. All the goods.
Let's
I love it. That's
let's
awesome.
do it. But
Hmm.
I would love to just kind of get to know also. So let's go ahead and get into it. I One of my favorite stories about you is how you were able to get into your STEM program back in college. So if you want to just tap into that story a little bit, would
Oh my
love for you to
gosh.
share it.
It's so funny. I was on the phone earlier with some folks at the University of Michigan Aerospace Department just talking about collaboration, and I was saying like my journey to become an aerospace engineer is one of like the pivotal and pinnacle moments of my life, because I feel like it was very defining in terms of like what I was willing to risk and what I was willing to do to pursue something I was so passionate about. So just to give you a little background, from Flint, Michigan, and always was fascinated with planes, lived by an airport, was one of those inquisitive, probably annoying kids, always asking my mom, how does this work? How does that work? Taking things apart, doing puzzles, like always just very curious. And lived by airport and asked my mom, how do the planes fly? And she said, maybe one day you'll have a job where you can answer that question. So that was really the like point where I was thinking, I'm going to figure out how to answer this question.
Yeah.
But then I found myself at a college tour in the ninth grade where I actually visited the aerospace department for the first time. And I realized, okay, this is how I find out. This is how I learn about those planes. Now, I was a good student, but I went to the type of school that didn't really produce a lot of students going to University of Michigan Aerospace. So I feel like I was kind of counted out at an early age in high school. I remember my counselor saying, he laughed at me when I said I wanted to go study aerospace engineering. Fast forward, I did not get into the engineering college when I applied. And I felt really bad because I was thinking, oh, maybe my high school counselor was right. But another avenue presented itself where instead of me going straight into engineering, I could go to the other college, literature, science, and arts, and then transfer into engineering. So I feel like I was already at a disadvantage of like, you already got denied. Like, what are you trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like I didn't want to do anything else. I was
Yeah.
coming from, the type of school where I was a big fish in a little pond. So I had good grades. I did all these different extracurricular activities,
Mm-hmm.
track and field, cheerleading, national honors, like all the things. So I feel like I was just in denial, like, no, like I am going to be an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward that
But you're a
story a little bit.
finesser. You're a finesser, a real fly dresser. You know.
I can make them a playlist, like,
I can.
um, so I eventually got into the program, but that was like year 3.5 when I was in college. Normally, you transfer into a program like that a year and a half, maybe 2 years in. So I was already behind schedule. I was dealing with a lot of family issues. I am first generation college student, go away to college. So, like, I thought that I wouldn't have to worry about things and I could just be a college student and that's it. But I worked a lot of hours. I did a lot of work study jobs. And then eventually my mom and two grandparents passed away suddenly all in the same year. And this was when I was transferring into the engineering program. So that had me at a standstill. I took a break from school, but it was that story that I was able to show like how much perseverance I had to get into the program, all the steps and strides that I made to become an aerospace engineer, that the advisor at the time just said, hey, take one aerospace class, see how you do, and like we'll go from there. I eventually did well in that class. I eventually transferred into that program. But as you can imagine, me being so far away from the first marker of when you should transfer, didn't have the best grades. So then it was a whole nother journey of like, okay, now I got to find an aerospace job. So I feel like there were all these trials that just kept coming like back to back to back. And everything became more and more risky. But I feel like at the end of the day, I was betting on myself on like, I remember telling my college advisor at the time, like, I rather try and fail than to not try at all.
Yeah.
And that's really what led me to keep trying.
You knew that very early on,
Mm-hmm.
too, it seems like. So that's pretty extraordinary, like, mindset to have. Even
I
then.
grew up in a home where I was always encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's one of the things that like truly was foundational and made me successful. Fun fact, I think like the years 0 to 7 is when kids are in theta and you have to like that's when they soak up the most information. So I feel like I was always like praised at home, like, oh, she can dance or she can draw. Like people were always encouraging like they called me Puzzle Wizard. Like I have uncles to this day who are like, hey, Puzzle
Add
Wizard.
that to
like,
the nicknames.
So I think that self-confidence was instilled at an early age. So and you know, my mom, she went to college, but she was a single mother when she was in school. She, you know, went to community college. So there was also this person that was like, if I could do it, you can do it. And that's what kept me going.
Amazing.
Amazing. That's awesome. Would you say that was like one of the moments in your like college era upbringing that like shifted your whole perspective on like how you could get to that next space? Like what were some really, other than that, definitive moments in your like getting into your career that truly set you up for like where you are today? And what would you like pull from that, and I guess maybe give a boost of encouragement to our listeners that might be in like wanting to go on the same path, or even just for perspective in general?
I mean, so I have faith, so I'll say that, but also mindset, 100%. I learned in college, like on my journey from transferring into the engineering department, but also getting the first job, like really challenging what are the real rules or like criteria. You know, when I transferred into engineering, I think you had to have like a 3.3 to like get into the program. I didn't have a 3.3, so I started asking the questions. Oh, okay. So what's the like what?
How do I get here?
You get a grade like this here and a grade like this here. What happens then? Like, you know, just almost mapping out these different scenarios and just figuring out if that was like a firm rule versus a recommendation.
Right.
So
like,
I remember,
good way to look at it, honestly.
Definitive are the lines here? Are we talking about?
Like, is this a real rule or is this what you say on paper?
Like,
and
yeah,
even
or it's like a forgiveness versus permission situation.
And
you know?
I don't know if you know that, Riley, but I literally say that all the time. Like, actually, I say that to all the interns we work with. I say that to everyone. Ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Right. I feel like that's exactly what I thought of when you were saying that. I was like, that's exactly the same scenario that I feel like I play out in my head. I'm like, yeah, it's better to just ask for forgiveness than, you know.
Permission. And then the answer's always no if you don't ask. So like, you know, and then never take the first no.
Never take the first no. 100%. I feel like you mentioned that you're a very creative person, even though, you know, like, so you think of STEM, it's like, but honestly, when I look at STEM, I'm like, you guys do have to have a decent amount of creativity, and not coming from like the industry. I would like to know, like, do you still like get to implement your creative juices in your work, either with Greater Than Tech or with your day job? Like, how do you like keep that part of you in touch?
Yeah, so luckily I'm in a role where it's more like strategy based and it's almost like decision making. So I feel like the word creative normally goes towards like, you know, people who are doing art and paint and music and things like that. But like, honestly, I'm using creativity on just the decision making at work. Who do we want to partner with? Who has like the latest, greatest tech? When I think about Greater Than Tech, I mean, all of this to me is like me making a puzzle all over again. I'm just putting things together that make sense to me. If additive manufacturing is a hot topic over here, and we know that there's all these different jobs that are popping up, or all these different opportunities that are popping up in this field, how can you almost like kidify something like additive manufacturing for a student to understand? Okay, what are like some key elements in this particular technology that a 14-year-old can like implement and understand? So it's still techie, but it's like kind of making a puzzle where it's like, okay, this fits here, but can it fit here?
Right.
And can you make this high level concept digestible for someone here? I think that's creativity.
Absolutely.
I think so too. You have like it's like adapting to the younger minds, and so I'm like also kind of curious what has been. I know you must have saw a lot of great potential in these young women, and so but what has been shocking for you since start like working like with demo days and these workshops and these programs and guest speakers? Like what has been shocking of these young students?
I think it is their ability to grasp these hard concepts. So with Greater Than Tech, and my co-founder is also an engineer. Shout out to Dr. Brittany Wheeler, but we don't like really change the terminology of what we say and do at work. So essentially these students are learning these like industry concepts and like pitching their ideas like they've been doing it in their sleep. So I think I'm always surprised and impressed when we're giving them something relatively, it's considered like a hard science or something, but they get it and then they're like even more creative in their approach. Like they come up with these great business names, they come up with these great business initiatives. We did a community robotics program and we basically said, hey, like, how would you use a robot to solve a social impact problem? And we gave them like the 15 environmental, social, and governance like initiatives, like giving them real world problems. Like, how would you solve like poverty or this or that, like with the robot? And just wild ideas. Like, we didn't know what we were going to get, but we had students do like, oh, let's make a robot to help disabled farmers. Like, I've never
Whoa.
considered that at
Who,
all.
who
That's
thinks of
so
that?
a 12-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
So that's
Crazy.
also like inspiring to me because I feel like they don't have like they're not jaded. They don't have like all this reality yet where they're like,
Their
oh, that's
imagination is
never
like
gonna work.
wide
That's never
open.
gonna work.
Yeah.
So exactly, they can like really think about things that are extremely creative and very realistic in a lot of ways. Where one day this could be a venture, and that's what we want to see.
You're like you're sparking the ideas of future like venture backed companies. Like you never know. And something that's like really it sounds like you're working with like a bunch of like dreamers. And so it's like do you in your opinion feel like as we get older, we kind of lose that sense of dreaming that maybe these students have that just like make them create these such incredible ideas?
Oh gosh, this could turn into a whole different podcast, but I feel
Oh
like
no.
the educational system really creates employees. Yes, there's art classes, there's music, there's, classes that do have creativity, but for what it's worth, like, I haven't taken a lot of classes that were really like ideas based, maybe lab based, something like that, but not so much about like the real world applicability, like you can make this happen. More like, here's a concept, So I think we're just not taught to really have a myriad of ideas on our own. Like, I don't think entrepreneurship is really something embedded in the education system. Maybe by the time you go to college and you go to like, an innovation course or an incubator program, something like that. But I think like just the way the education system is structured, I don't think that's really the goal.
Yeah.
I think we're normally just kind of put on our path, learn a trade, learn a niche, and be an expert in that. And
Like
I
a
have,
calculator.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and
I'm
I
really
have a master's in interdisciplinary engineering. Like, I work amongst different departments. I understand how all these systems fit together. And I just feel like, and I'm speaking really from an engineering perspective, but it's like you do aerospace, you do mechanical, you do electrical, and then you get your discipline. You can do controls, you can do data, you can do, and then you just kind of go down that path of being some expert in, a very specific area. And that's like what you do. I think that's the master plan for how education is set up. So I just don't think there's a lot of opportunities for people to like get that creativity bug at an early age and just keep it.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I'm like super passionate about that specific topic because there's like so many students who just don't learn properly within like how the system's built right now. It's like I guess I can't. There's a few like entrepreneurship courses offered at SDSU that are like are more idea based, but like the whole if we started way earlier and allowed students to build confidence in understanding that ideas are totally acceptable and there's not like in venture capital, say like where investments are allocated, it's specifically on what like market conditions and traction and like very kind of input driven. Some focus on more of the people. So it's just like, it's so ambiguous. Like it's so hard to put like a specific like, oh, put a grade on it. Like this is what you earned. Like this is what you deserve. So, but like, I think that's something that I specifically wish I understood more at an early age. Is like, it's so gray. Everything is so gray.
Right. And I think even for my co-founder and I, we're both engineers, but we did like a tech startup competition. I think we were both in grad school at the time, and I think it was for her grade, and her professor was like, oh, it's extra credit, do this little tech competition or something. And we did it, and we made it to the semifinalists or to the semifinals. And we're like, wait a minute, we can do stuff. And the judges were like, oh, you guys are engineers. Like, you know how to make this. And we're like, huh. And it was just the wildest thing of like, oh, no one ever told us that we could like create and build and be entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Have an imagination and go outside the box. That's amazing. I think it's interesting because I feel like I look back on like my high school and college years, and even in college where like that's more where you get reintroduced to like thinking outside the box and being more like have more of an imagination when it comes to like throwing any idea out there. It is interesting that like kids at the age of 12 can come up with something like that and you're like, whoa. And then at what point that gets taken away, or where we feel like, oh, maybe our opinions or our ideas are like not as revolutionary as we might think. And it is really interesting. I hope the education system throughout the years like changes in that in that retrospect. But yeah, I think what you're able to do now and like seeing that in the real world and like actually have moments where you're like, oh yeah, we can do that, yeah, we are gonna do that, is really awesome too. But I guess kind of transitioning out into like the end of the episode, obviously we're coming to a close. What has been like maybe some of your favorite memories of Greater Than Tech, and also what are you looking forward to either in your endeavors or just in your personal life for 2023, since it's the new year? We're on that highlight topic.
I know. Favorite endeavors. I mean, I think I always light up when the students are having fun and when they're like lighting up. We've had a student, so there's one girl, she just got into Columbia on a full ride. Shout out to Jackie.
Oh my goodness.
I know, right? I met her when I was right. I met her when I was doing another program, and she was like a lab assistant. And this was before she did a Greater Than Tech program, but she already had like the STEM bug. Like I see a lot of myself in her because she's very much like she's interested in STEM, and she's taking every opportunity where she can like get more of it. So she did not realize how far ahead she was in terms of like her skills and ability. My co-founder and I, we were doing a camp for Elementary Institute of Science, and we were teaching the middle school students like we were doing a Greater Than Tech program, but she was kind of like a lab assistant, so she wasn't really in the program, but she was able to like teach the students how to code, and like she was really our like pit crew. Like she was the one fixing all the things, and I'm like, hey, like tell me about yourself. Like she was like, oh, like I like robots. So it's like she was already doing the work. And I was like, yeah, when I was your age, like I was working at McDonald's, like, and I think she was probably 14, 15 at the time. But just being able to teach someone, being able to teach someone something like coding, and you're only a student, and like it seemed like no one ever told her that before. Like she was just like, what? I was like, yeah, girl, like you could get paid to do this.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, really?
Before you can even operate a vehicle. Before you can even
exactly.
operate a vehicle.
Exactly. So she's done our programs, and has said like at first she wanted to be a roboticist, now she wants a robotics company. And I'm like, yes.
Ooh, you're like,
you know, like you
working.
can do it.
Riley's over here.
You know,
We're behind
Go
you.
check
We're
out-
behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
girl.
And then, you know, there's also another element of like entrepreneurship that I've seen in this program where it's like the social entrepreneur. I've had a student, this is actually Adesola's daughter, shout out to Adesola, who she wanted to, we do middle and high school, and she's just now getting into middle school, but she wanted to teach elementary students. And we're like, Alex, we don't teach elementary, but you can. And she like held an hour code session. There were some elementary students, but just seeing someone want to teach and like giving them the platform, like, yeah, go ahead. Like, this could be what you do. And I think that was just a really good example of like her having confidence and wanting to like impact and be like a social entrepreneur in that way. So
that's so cool.
There's so many stories like that, and
all doing different things and all wanting different
yeah,
things,
it's
but
like
still have
whatever
like a
you
greater
take from it.
meaning. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then I'll just say for 2023, you know, greater and greater every day. We launched our GTT Alumni Club. So we've invited all the girls back from previous programs, and now it's really about like networking and giving them a little bit more help in the self-efficacy part. Our programs are very structured, and we never really have time to just like connect and really like, you know, have those moments where it's like, hey girl, what you been up to? So even the students, like, they become close friends. So now the alumni club is like for connection, community building. It's for networking. It's for building more of their resume and self-confidence. And we also like take them on tours. We take them on like, we give them opportunities. We take them on tours. And if they want to teach, similar to Alex, like if they want to teach a skill to someone else, we give them an opportunity to do that. So
amazing.
I'm excited for it.
I'm excited for you. So without further ado, we just want to know, where can we reach you on the internet? How can people find you? How can everybody get the good stuff?
Yes. So follow Greater Than Tech SD on Instagram, follow Greater Than Tech on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And then you can follow Jasmine LeFlore on LinkedIn and Twitter. Then check out our website, www.greaterthantech.org.
Perfect. Perfect. And we will be sure to put that all in the description below so everybody can access that easily. But thank you, Jasmine, so much for coming on the podcast today. We had an amazing time chatting with you and super grateful that we got to take the time to do so today. So anyways, and also Baddies, thank you for listening to today's episode. We will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.